Okay.
That was my goal for the year.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Having a microphone issue.
Well, I was surprised when people made comments to me about nobody else hardly ever came to the meetings. Like, no one. But yeah. But people are very, they want to know, everybody wants to read what happens. in the
Yeah.
meeting.
So the
But I think that,
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm gonna go check the audio.
I think because of COVID, it makes it, easier access.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
It's so easy to turn it on at home.
Well, they actually have it on the video,
Yeah.
so I'm glad if
You can
people.
watch it anytime.
Apparently, people are more engaged, and that's the good news,
The
There are
historic-
more people that know.
I would think the historic commission would probably bring out more people on certain hot button items.
I mean, when they had Reggie Marrier's house up there, something,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was,
Yeah.
Everybody has an
Yeah.
opinion about that house.
My father was an alderman in what they call it in Annapolis, when they created the historic district. And I was in the 5th grade.
wow.
And our phone rang off the hook for a year, and I was taught the art of the white lie. We were told we couldn't lie, but then we were told that he isn't home. And he said, "You're lying." My mother said, "That's a white lie."
He's not available.
But I meant for
My
a
mother
year.
used to go outside.
Uh,
She'd say, "Tell them I'm not in the house." So I was big on her.
I love that.
So it wasn't a lie.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Oh,
We've got a red flashing light on the microphone, but it's definitely broadcasting, so.
Oh, good.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, so, first things first, minutes of September 1st.
I guess everyone's had a chance to read them.
is it your turn?
No, I did it last time. It's somebody else's turn.
Okay, motion to accept.
Second.
Aye.
All right.
Okay. After our last discussion, there were many tweaks to be made to the donation memorial program. So this basically is the final draft. We'll take it before the mayor and council at some point, no great rush on this. But I just wanted you to have one last chance to look at it before we put it before them. There there were some minor wording tweaks that I did for our discussion last time, but nothing major. So this meeting should be fairly quick this evening, I would say.
Where it says plaques, does that mean like in front of a tree to commemorate the tree?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And you obviously don't want to put a plaque on a tree.
Yeah,
So.
it's just in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And depending on how it is, if it's a tree in the middle of some other large planting, then it might be something that goes on a stake or a stand.
Mhm.
But if it's sort of by itself, then you could put it on a stone on the ground. So that's a judgment call that'll be made.
There's like the Y Oak Descendant is a flat plaque
Mhm.
on the ground versus which honestly, the ones that are on a stick, they just get knocked over.
Yeah, they do.
So the preferable would be actually the one in the ground.
And the ones that are flat on the ground, I mean, it's the same reason why so many modern graveyards have flush markers. It's because it's just so much easier for landscaping purposes.
Yeah, we don't have people who have tweezers to pick
Right.
around stuff. And we do, sometimes you have to do that. is very, very well done. I find it gives me answers to almost everything that I could possibly want, and then I call you.
Well, yeah, experience says that somebody will come up with something that you'll be going, oh, I never thought of that. But that's, you try to cover every base,
And how do people know that they can do it?
this will go online. Once
Okay.
it's approved, it'll go online and then it'll go from there.
Nice.
We don't get very many of these, but every now and again, we get someone who wants to do this and we're never really prepared for it. So
Yeah.
it's just a good thing to have in place.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then with it being online, maybe people will see it and.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be presented at the council meeting. Hopefully, the newspapers will pick up on it, and, you know, somebody can make a big to-do about it, you
Right,
know, and
right.
maybe somebody will come up and
Yeah.
donate something.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
we've had a few who we've actually allowed to plant trees or whatever, but we never had a really formal
Right,
system.
and certain trees picked and certain
Yes,
places.
yes, exactly.
That's nice for consistency.
Yes,
Yeah, which brings to mind, you know, we still have those trees down what's called, I guess, the Mayor's Grove,
yeah,
but the tags, you know, that is an issue that, it's just a, you know, it's hard for them to mow and all of
Uh-huh.
that. We might consider transitioning some of those monument tags.
Oh,
to
right.
a more
to something
appropriate.
more
Yeah,
permanent.
permanent
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know, that's just something we might want to talk about and as we transition into a more
Yeah.
uniform.
Is that the area where the Stephen Decatur?
It's over on the nature park side where you know, where the parking lot is.
Mhm.
There's several,
About
a couple of plum
like 6
trees.
trees.
There's a big open area and these trees are kind of close to the parking lot.
And they've been
Okay.
dedicated
Yeah.
by citizens who honored their loved ones. And it just needs, I think, you know, that's something that we can move to update and, you know, freshen up too.
Yeah, we'll look at it
Yeah.
and try to get a sense of budget and then, you know, maybe
Well,
it's something.
yeah,
to look at,
as we
yeah.
move forward, that because if the families want to replace, I think that they would get an opportunity
Right.
to replace
Right.
them. Because some of the tags have just gone missing, I
Yeah.
think, so.
Yeah.
So that's just what I mean, as we move, as they are replaced, we could replace them with something that is easier to handle.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, it's a legitimate concern.
Well, I move that we accept these, the Berlin Parks Commission Commemorative Program. I believe that we should accept this. As written.
I would second.
Agreed.
I'm just so confident. I like having the examples,
Yeah.
just to give people an idea of what, you know, what are
Yeah.
the kinds of things that they can look forward to.
Yeah, and if this was something that we received frequent requests on, I might have felt more comfortable about putting some pricing in there, but who knows, you know?
Things are changing all the time, and the materials that are available now might,
Exactly.
you know, there might be new materials,
Right.
better things,
Right,
so.
absolutely. The only other thing that I had under old business was just a follow-up to the tennis programming that happened in September and October. And the county says they had about 13 participants for the clinics, and they averaged about 5 people for the drop-in evenings. So I mean, considering we're in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of people probably stayed away because of that.
I'm
for
thrilled
obvious
that
reasons.
anybody showed
Yeah.
up.
I think
That's really
that
cool.
went well. So they're looking forward to continuing to do programming, you know, hopefully in the spring and summer, we'll maybe be able to get back into use of the basketball courts as well. So
That'd be
I
lovely.
think that working with the county recreation like this
Yeah,
is
it's been great.
really great.
Mhm.
Can I ask a question? Several years ago, I brought it to the attention of Laura Allen, and she basically told me that this is never going to happen. But since this is the Parks Commission, let me just ask, is there any chance of us ever getting that track replaced with something else, even if it was like blacktop or something? Because my thought is, now all eyes are focused on Heron Park.
You're talking about the scrap tire path, just
Yes,
so.
because it really, like, I use it and I see people using it all the time. It's something that is
Oh, yeah.
really well used, and it's in such deplorable condition.
Well,
I feel
I'll
like-
tell you why her response
History
was it'll
there.
never happen,
Yeah.
because the materials do not work this
Yeah,
far north.
oh, and I know, but I
So
feel
that,
like
that's
it
probably
should be
what,
taken up and then something else should be there, and whether it's,
This is the kind of thing that we would really have to get a grant for.
Yeah.
oh,
And-
yeah, I think
and I
so,
think that-
but if
I
nobody
think that-
mentions it, then
Oh,
there's
no,
no.
I think that we all are well aware of the deplorable condition.
Yeah.
The guys work with it all the time. We have not, I mean, we,
part of the issue with grant funding for a project like that is grant funders prefer to fund new projects. That would be considered more of a repair and maintenance kind of thing. It's not impossible, but it's fairly unlikely. But I'm not gonna say it'll never happen, but
Yeah.
it's
It would be
certainly not at the
But it's
forefront.
so, it's such, I feel like it should be the forefront, because it's a lawsuit waiting to happen, because
Well, we
And
had-
it's-
I
it's
had-
taking a beautiful park and just, it's such a mess. Like, even if it was blacktop or something, like, or,
You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars
but maybe
to
it
do
could be
that.
even like, you're hearing people talking about bike trails. It could be like a new project in that, maybe it's a bike trail and it,
They won't look at it that way. I know from experience that they will not look at that as a new project. Now, 20 years from now, they might, because it will be considered to, be so far gone that
Yeah.
it's.
but it is so far.
I'm not saying it won't happen, but,
But it just won't.
and all of the projects that keep coming up are hundreds of thousands of dollars of projects.
Yeah,
And you can only fund so much of that at one time.
right.
the projects like that, and this is where having like an active Friends of group, that is something I would love for us to be able to do.
Mhm.
Because the Friends of group can go out and
Raise money.
and talk to
Exactly.
every business in town and every international business and, people who want to help rehabilitation. I mean, we could go for something really
Yeah.
outstanding that would be, because people walk on it for rehabilitation because it feels so good on their
Yes.
feet.
That squishy. is
But
so
it would
helpful.
take some kind of mounted effort, which it could be done,
Yeah.
but you need
We
5
just need-
dedicated people to
Rome
be on.
wasn't built in a day, as they
No,
say.
no, right, but if
Yeah.
it never comes up, then I just.
No, you're not incorrect.
I had somebody call me, or track me down, stop me on the street actually, about, in the morning, she said it was damp and everything, a lot of elderly people, they were
Slippery.
slipping. So
Yeah, it's slippery,
I called
so I
Jeff and
fell.
he said he was gonna try to get the guy to go through every morning. And
I fell
the
because-
leaves-
Because of the leaves.
The leaves
Yeah.
get on there and it gets
So
slippery.
Jeff said he would, and that was just last week, so I'm assuming that Jeff's pretty good about getting right on top of something.
Even if it was removed and like that tiny little gravel that's back by the park were put there, I think it would be better than,
Well,
because it's.
loose gravel though. It's-
Or not loose gravel, but you know what I mean, like what's
Pea
behind
gravel,
it.
yeah.
I think
Crush it.
that,
At crush and run, yeah.
I think it's crushed shale is what's back by that's a
It
very
is.
nice fine one. I think that there are other options, and thinking small only gets you in trouble if we're gonna do this. I mean, yeah, now, it might be nice to go and be able to patch it if there's some kind of patching material.
They,
that
they, they patch when they
And
can.
they're doing what they can, but it's something, I would not want to go backwards. I would
Yeah.
want something better, that's better,
Yeah.
that how many of us have bad knees in this town? I mean, this is something that's really treasured, and if we keep that focus on why the darn thing was put in the first place, so people could have a safe place to walk, which is, I mean, I honestly.
It was put in because it was an experiment.
Yeah.
And.
Done by the Maryland Environmental Service.
I remember
all the intentions
there
were
were people who
excellent.
were getting hit on the highway walking. There were, it was dangerous. You're watching people
Yeah.
walk up and down the highway.
Yeah.
I'm saying the fact that it was a scrap tire path was
All-
kind of an experimental
All
initiative.
experimental, and it's been a wonderful experiment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it didn't pan out quite the way they
It
thought
was
it
a shame
would.
because it was really nice.
Yeah.
It's just.
It was never meant to be put this far north.
And that we
It was
we were
never
not aware
meant
of
to
that.
happen.
Yeah.
Nobody was.
No.
No, that, it was kind of
Nobody
an
was.
experiment, right, to see how
Yeah,
far north it would work.
basically.
So now we know, but maybe there is a different material that they've come up with that would be a more.
And that's
appropriate.
entirely possible. I mean,
All of these
yeah.
things are a possibility that you would have to set in motion. let's get 5 of your friends who are doing nothing. That's what, you know, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, we have
If we
like,
had a Friends of, it would be great.
we have like a rubberized surface at the one play unit, but I don't know, is it the same thing? Can you use it for people to walk on? I don't know. You would think you could, but
I always wanted it just to be extended from 0.62 miles to a full mile.
believe me,
Because
We
it could just
tried.
loop through that.
all
But
of the
I would love-
configurations of trying to get that stretch to a mile, and it just.
And you just have to do that one loop of extra.
Yeah. Well, and I just think that it would be good if we could generate some kind of interest in it before everybody focuses on the other park. To me, it's like, this one has a major problem.
So what's going on at the other park? I hadn't heard anything about
Nothing.
that.
No, nothing, but that's why
Oh.
I'm saying it would be good to generate excitement about this one.
Well,
First.
absolutely. I think that, you know, that's a great idea.
But I
Get
don't,
the volunteers together to
It's-
do it. But because I'm not gonna ask Mary to go out and do all that
No.
250 hours
Well-
worth of work.
It's, the budget has been cut to the bare bones.
Oh, yeah, it's,
I mean, there is nothing new happening in any department in
Yeah.
the town.
it strictly has to be a
It has to
community
be.
supported.
We applied for a very large grant for permanent restrooms at Stephen Decatur Park, which I don't think have a very good chance of succeeding. But you can't put in 5 hundreds of thousands of dollars projects each year. You
so it'd
just
be either
can't
the
do it.
bathrooms or the,
You have to prioritize. When you're doing these great big
and I
projects,
agree that
you've
the
got to
bathrooms
prioritize.
are
So
priority.
and this is just the way it is. What is a priority for you? What's a priority for this person? What's a priority? All of that wars.
Right, but I do think
yeah.
it's a priority for the town because of the safety issue with it now.
Well,
You know,
we'll get
but-
into something in just a minute that will tell you that there are others in the town who think something else is the biggest priority out there.
I don't think it's the
Okay.
biggest priority in the town, but I think for parks.
No, for parks. That's what I
Right.
mean, for parks.
I think you're right. We need to have a list of priorities. I think that this is near the top of priorities. And that is just, as we, you know, we can't do everything,
Oh,
but
no.
we can certainly focus on, if getting people energized about doing it is the first step.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the truth.
So I'm gonna pass out, this is an email that I received. Part of our, we have the meetings, you know, we invite people to submit their comments since our public participation is so limited. And as you will see from the very first line, this group thinks that this is the priority for the town. So this is what we end up
Yeah.
with. And I'm saying that their priority is equally as much a priority to them as the path is to you, as something else is to someone
I mean,
else.
I agree with this too, but.
But it comes down to money. And I would say that these kinds of really high dollar projects, the only way that they're gonna happen is with fundraising of some kind. And that is not something that the town can undertake for a number of reasons.
So I assume that the concept of this would be at Heron Park, is what they're imagining.
I would imagine, but I don't know that.
Doesn't say.
No, I'm just curious what they're.
I've talked to Tony who sent this, and I think that was.
Okay, I mean, it's a wonderful idea. Wouldn't it be fabulous if we could have it?
Well,
I think
I
we
will
should
say-
implement this plan right away.
It would something
Something-
skateboard kids, right, in front of the Olympics.
Something that comes up whenever the discussion of it, and as you well know, this is not the first time we've had this
Oh my gosh.
conversation.
It's the
This,
perennial
this,
thing.
the skate park.
Yes, I mean, it's been an ongoing desire for a lot of years.
And the community has really been putting forth some energy. We worked with them up at Heron Park when they did
A
their
temporary,
their
yes.
temporary pop-up skate park or skate event thing, and it was
Right.
great.
It was really
It
great.
was
So well
fabulous.
received.
And they were collecting donations for skate park and all kinds of things that, you know, show community support.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a need for it. is hugely expensive. I mean, if this is not
To
just,
run it too, I keep hearing the cost of,
you have to make a decision about what kind
schools
of,
have
and the
thought on
insurance
that, some
and
say, oh, it's nothing to run it, and others, it depends on the community, things can go, you get one element in there, and that sets the trend. And it's almost impossible to predict what way that will go at a given time. One of the things that comes up repeatedly when state parks are under discussion is the Tony Hawk Foundation. Great organization, they do great work. But I don't know what the word is, their conditions,
conditions, yeah.
it has to be a low-income neighborhood. Now, Berlin is usually, because we're a very small town, we can count as one neighborhood, but we are not a low-income town. So that eliminates that right there. The other part of it is that their maximum grant is $25,000. That is not going to build an entire skate park.
That'll
Nowhere
get your
near
plan
it.
drawn.
Nowhere near it. It'll supplement, it can provide pieces of it, but the main, and they also, their Tony Hawk Foundation requires that they are concrete. They can't be wood or metal structures that could, it has to be concrete.
Very similar to this bowl that they have, the picture that they have.
Exactly.
This would be the
Exactly.
kind of thing that you would imagine that the Tony Hawk Foundation would
Yeah.
just.
And I mean,
It
it
looks
makes
like it's-
sense.
It looks
They
like
don't
it's
want
open all
something-
the time.
They don't, right, it has to, exactly, it has to be open 24 hours a day. They don't want, the Tony Hawk Foundation doesn't want to participate in a project that's gonna fall apart in 10 years for lack of
Exactly.
maintenance. It all makes absolute sense, and it has been a fantastic thing for many, many communities. But unless we come up with a very large chunk of money, $25,000 is simply not going to
No,
do
that's
it.
absolutely true.
I
And the
wonder
same funding sources that we can go to for a path or a restroom, we could go to for a skate park. But what's the priority?
so we need.
Curious what the creative funding is that he's referencing.
Sorry?
I wonder what the creative funding is. he's
I don't know,
referencing.
I don't know.
I just,
I mean, there is so much interest for a skate park. I think that it would be easier to generate excitement and get people to fundraise and donate.
Well, one
But that's
advantage.
not something the town can do.
No, I
That
get that.
has to come from grassroots,
Well,
private.
and Tony is a really, he's pumped about this idea. Maybe that's what it needs, is somebody like him to kind of, rally a bunch of his friends and, all of our
Yeah,
friends.
that
are-
really is what it's gonna take. It's just not something the town is going to be able to accomplish. It's not gonna
The
happen.
town can say yes. That's about all the town can say.
Certainly,
And then,
yes,
of course. And I think that everybody wants to have things for the kids to do, something structured like that.
But there will be no plans being made for Heron Park until the entire situation is resolved.
Yeah,
There's no sense in pouring time, money, effort into
Into-
even
yeah.
concepts of what's gonna happen there until the whole situation is resolved.
Yeah.
So it's something
And
that,
nothing, there's no
Yeah.
money to put into that
Exactly.
decision, so we're just, we're stuck. Coming up with a more unified plan in the meantime that doesn't cost anything, getting people to talk about it is a good start.
yeah,
And this is a great start
yeah.
for,
And Heron Park isn't the end, it isn't the only place, in the town. One of the suggestions that we met when we were talking to folks years ago was to talk to the county at the ball fields.
Right.
They've got a lot of open space out there. I have no idea what their reception to an idea like this would be. No idea. But that may be a place to go.
Like
tell
go to
you
the
what, we're
county and have the
developing a
county
very-
build it instead of the town, you mean?
Or
Like-
work with,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
work with.
That way-
Yeah.
They've become really good.
Cooperative efforts like that happen
Yeah.
a lot.
and they
Good
have
for
been
funding.
criticized for not expanding enough in the north. So this actually might be a kind of coincidental, serendipitous joining. They want to serve the population. And if the population, it would be a real feather in their cap to
Yeah.
have a nice skate park. The thing about that I do worry about too, like Mary was referencing, about who is there. You have to have it supervised. And, you know, you want to be sure that the people who are there, like in Ocean City, you have to have all your equipment on, you know, you have to have your helmets and all of
Right.
that, which entails a person being there while
And
they're
And my
responsible.
understanding, and you see this story, I'm sorry, this mask is fine until I start talking. You see the stories all the time about how well the skate community polices itself.
Absolutely.
And that is great, but it's not a guarantee. And there are other communities, I'm sure, who have much different stories to tell.
Yeah.
So
Well, and things
building
just
it
can
somewhere where
happen.
it's tucked away out of sight of
Yeah.
everybody is maybe not the best.
No, it's just, it's something that you know, at Ocean Pines, it's right behind the police department. I do not know what the situation is in Salisbury, how that situation is.
I don't either, I really
I've never
don't. It is kind of tucked away where unless you drive past it, you don't even know it's there.
And
But
I
don't
would be
know what
interested in
their-
going in, I
Yeah.
think that would be a good,
I
like,
don't know what their
field trips for people to go and find out where it is and take the time to look and see what Salisbury's done, what the other communities have done. And so we can at least have a little better idea of what we're talking about. It needs to be on the table. We need to have more opportunities for kids to interact
Absolutely.
in a constructive way. Not everybody's a baseball player, and, you know, it's just, Berlin seems to attract a lot of skaters.
Yeah.
We all want it, it's just.
Well,
how
it's
get it
because
done.
we have decent, quiet streets.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the decent street is a large part of it. Streets in Salisbury, for instance, are generally not great. You know, kids don't want to skateboard down a street where they're gonna have to dodge potholes, although, I don't know, maybe that could be a urban challenge of some kind,
Well,
but.
I'm very glad that we got a comment.
Yes, I mean, it's just, this is the tough thing, where you have all these big, wonderful projects, and then you have groups that really want to see each of these projects. And it's a,
Well, I had to
It's
ask.
gotta be
I had to ask
prioritized.
because I had to understand.
yeah, of course.
And I do understand, and I think probably the skate park is, you know, I've seen this whole grassroots movement for this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I agree with it, and I've seen the need.
Yeah,
Although I would.
Oh, they're
put that-
terrifically-
That trail on the priority too.
Well, and it is, I think we all know that these are things that have to be done. Hey, look, I have been screaming inside my own very head about getting rid of invasive plants. And, you know, we have this nature park, but 90% of what's in there is invasive trees and vines and things, which, it's a nature park.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
but see, that's, you have all of these things that are balanced as to what a park brings to you. I look at Heron Park and I want to take a saw to every one of those Bradford pears. Cut them all down and allow something else to grow, because the diversity that comes with that. I mean, you think there's birds there now? You just wait.
Wow.
And you can have a 12-season display of nature, you know, if you plan it right, there's always something new to see when you go for these
Absolutely.
walks.
different
It's-
animals, migrations, and yeah.
And this plants, you know, you have the different colors of leaves that are, there's just so much you can do with a piece of property like that. It's limited in size, but you can really give people that forest bath, is that what they call it?
What is it?
A forest bath? They-
Oh, yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the
Shower.
term, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's like you go.
Immerse yourself in nature.
Immerse yourself in a natural space
Yeah,
that
yeah.
refreshes you and brings you back to your senses.
Right, right.
That's what it
We've
should
been
be
up there a
used for.
lot in the last few weeks.
You sure have. I've seen a lot of
Good
pictures on Facebook.
Yeah, and we met 3 guys, I got to talking with them, they were from southern Maryland, and they heard about the park, drove all the way over here.
Oh, wow.
They were, you could tell they were,
Burgers?
real burgers, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes,
And they were
good.
so impressed, I gave them the whole rundown on it and everything,
Yeah.
because they didn't know anything about it.
There's so many things that have so much potential.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's just,
there's just only so much money to
Yeah.
go around. And at the end of the
and
day,
manpower.
money is it, and manpower.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the other part of it as well. It's not just getting it built, it's taking care of it going forward. You know, these things do have a price.
You know, even with a simple sign that identifies a tree, you know,
Right.
simple things that you just, I'm glad that you included those kinds of, you know, that kind of information.
Oh, of
because
course.
You can't just expect it to stand forever, so.
Right. Right.
Well, thank you, Tony, for sending that wonderful email and sparking a great conversation.
Well, and I will say, our next meeting is scheduled for January, it's right after the holiday, we may, you know. I've got to look at some other schedules because it would be January and then not until March. But we will be, I assume, working on our program open space priority list,
Yeah.
which probably needs really a thorough revamping. We really haven't looked at it completely in a while.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things to think about, but I just can't emphasize it enough. There's got to be funding that comes from some other source,
Oh, yeah.
other than the town or the typical grant avenues that we have.
But the county might be a good first option, like you said, I wouldn't have thought of that, so that's a good point.
Well, when you have.
It's worth opening a discussion with them.
Well, and they
You know.
might have more opportunities to provide us a line to resources that, you know, that we might be able to explore that maybe they can't.
That's exactly correct. The community parks and programs grant application in particular, that's an area that only municipal governments can apply for. The county cannot apply for those funds. So when we start leveraging those things against each other, that's,
How do you know when grants are available?
I receive
Oh, you don't?
notifications.
Okay.
Yeah, not of private grants, for instance, like the Tony Hawk Foundation, that would be something that
Private, yeah.
I wouldn't get, I don't think that they necessarily have a funding period the way that the government grants do, I'm not sure.
You Google it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
you can Google it.
yeah.
Yeah,
For instance,
absolutely.
if you're
For grant
interested in-
opportunities. And then you put in what it would be, and it's amazing what comes up.
Yeah.
But most of the foundation grants, while they can all add up, they do tend to be smaller amounts, obviously. You know, they get spread pretty thinly.
But there are people who put money out there every
Right.
year and nobody asks for it. So we should ask for it. Maybe there's not a park that has a naturalization project that they want to do this year. You know, maybe there's not a park that, you know, then that money is just waiting for us to take it out. Well, waiting for a nonprofit which is affiliated with the town.
Yes,
Because
That's
the
true
town
as
cannot get cannot
Right.
compete for many of these grants.
that's true as
Municipal-
well.
yeah.
Often a lot of grants, particularly the private foundations, are closed to government agencies. They're open to nonprofits. It doesn't mean they won't allow you to pull funds together, but I can't apply directly, that sort of thing.
It's like a Friends of.
Yeah,
You know, the Friends of the Library can go out and get funds from anybody. Friends of, you know, they don't just have to rely on the county. They
Right.
get money from
Right.
selling cups or whatever. So there's a lot of that kind of thing. It's just,
So we need like a Friends of Steve Decatur Park, basically.
yeah, I
Or
would.
the
yeah.
park.
Berlin
The
Parks.
parks,
Berlin
because we
Parks.
want to make sure we include
Yeah,
all the
everything,
parks and
yeah.
everything
Yeah.
we do.
And, you know, and something like that also sparks ideas for future, when you get people who are interested, volunteers who are interested in it, that don't really have the responsibility, they come up with great ideas too.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, at one point, we were talking about these little pocket parks at the end of neighborhoods, and
Yeah.
all kinds of little ways that you can
yeah.
enhance beauty and bring nature, you know, open spaces that are so important for
Wow.
health and, you know, communities.
Where do you start when, like, if they wanted to move forward with the skate park? How do they know how much they need and what kind of plans? And
Yeah.
is that when you go to Salisbury?
Well, yeah, I would say asking other communities how much it costs
How
them
much,
to do
and then
whatever.
where you start?
But I do know, for instance, in Salisbury, I don't know the details, but I do know that a lot of their funding came from a foundation or a Friends of type
group,
situation.
Okay.
What kind of hours is Salisbury and Ocean?
I don't know, Ocean Pines,
I mean, they have to be staffed all the time. They're-
well, Ocean Pines, they're not staffed. Ocean Pines, I know they have cameras, they're right
No,
behind the
that's right,
police
yeah,
station.
they have the ideal situation.
Right, right. The one in Salisbury, I don't know. I honestly don't know how they handle that,
Yeah.
other than, you know.
Well, geez, there's all that space around the police department. I think we have just found the new place for the skate park. I think that would be perfect, right on the highway showing off to all the people going by. It's problem solved. Let's get that grant rolling.
There you go. But this is what government deals with. We have people lined up. This is why we need this, and this is the only thing we need, and this is the best thing in the world, and then the next person. And so this is where those grassroots, it kind of ends up becoming a put your money where your mouth is.
Right,
If your project
is that,
is really that important to the community,
then raise money. Yeah.
because the town can't do it. We can't satisfy every priority that comes up, and our budget is limited. And when it comes to all the things that a town has to do, unfortunately, the parks kind of take a back seat for, in most
No one's
cases, for
gonna die
obvious
if
good
the grass
reason.
doesn't get mowed.
Right, that's exactly correct. Or if a new piece of playground equipment isn't purchased.
Right.
Whereas if we don't have a garbage truck to pick up trash, things get ugly very quickly.
Yeah.
So you don't see very many grants that would come along that would work for any of these kind of projects?
Not that I'm aware of, that doesn't mean that they're not out
And
there.
that's why you're saying
Right.
people don't.
And the other thing that I think is equally important is that more than just saying, this is a great idea, but to do some planning.
Yeah.
To look, to have a detailed plan, as though you were writing a proposal. So you have,
Something to show.
target audience, what are the steps to do it, what are the estimated costs?
What's your population?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and just follow it through like you would any grant, and then come with a real plan. That's very different for this group to look at than, here's a great idea, and here's a picture in
Do it.
Miami, which is wonderful, and it's exciting.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
agree with this, but we have to have more,
Yeah.
so that, and that way also people begin to understand all the pieces that's involved, like
Yeah.
all the things Mary's been talking about. Not that they are complete game stoppers,
Right,
but that way everybody's on the same page.
they're not game stoppers, it's just
It's something you have to take into account.
hurdles is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just,
And
it's
those are
all
large
part of it.
hurdles, I get
And
that.
it's part of any grant process or any project
Yeah.
process.
One thing that they really have in their favor is they've been working on this for several years. So when you have the people who've been working on this for that long, that's a good start. Showing that you have people who care.
Absolutely.
Showing how many, how many volunteer hours, all those people were volunteering up at the park. So those are the kinds of things. And then if they wanted to have a show of support of the community, you could do a petition or just a census of the school-age children and, various things like that. You really, to show it is not just a great idea, it's necessary. It's necessary for the health and development of and you make it that important. And then you start to have fundraisers. So you get that money and say, this is,
Absolutely.
But first, a
this
plan.
is,
First a
And then-
plan,
First a plan,
yeah,
and
well,
then,
that you
So
plan
there's a
all these
direction.
things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
and people know clearly where they're moving towards.
I've worked with the Parks Commission for 25 years, one aspect or another. And I have gotten so excited about so many projects, very few of which have ultimately been able to come to fruition. I mean, I get just as pumped about these things as anybody else does. I would love to see all of these things
yeah,
happen.
and the bathrooms, like, they were close, like you said.
Yeah. It's not a pretty project, but it's one that a lot of people would
Yeah.
appreciate. Right.
The bathrooms are the thing I've been stopped on Main Street the most about, people asking about.
No, I think
why
that that's a
they're-
priority.
Yeah. But that's what happens, is you get, as I said, you get a couple
Well,
of people,
excited,
this is,
Well-
and if I do your priority project, then
Yeah,
I have this group saying, well, what about mine?
right.
You bring it, you make it the most important thing.
Right.
Because you're prepared, you are
Right.
ready to move on.
Yeah.
And
So
then-
if you
and
want
to-
to have it, you better just get all your.
Get it
stuff
going,
Together and.
get to it, don't wait for somebody else,
Right.
get to it, get started.
And that's,
I think
and
that's
that's the thing about community priorities. One part of the community's priority is no more or less important than another community
Mhm.
priority. It's just kind of who can bring it to the table.
Oh, no, I want them all.
Yeah, so do I, and that's the thing. That's what's so frustrating is
Yeah.
I go to conventions or I get newsletters and I'm like, oh my God, I would love to have this. And where's the money? Yeah.
Yeah.
So many
Going back
great
over the
ideas.
years.
Right.
You'd think about, I mean, it's been
How
a
many
couple
years,
decades.
how many years did it take to get the tennis courts redone?
I'll tell you
What
what,
a
they are
nightmare that
beautiful.
was.
Aren't they
Beautiful.
It is, I think the more
It's a-
people that
Right.
play on them, it's
Right.
gonna attract more
I-
attention.
I-
I'm so glad
I
that the
don't-
county is working with us on
Yes,
this.
me too.
That
And
is
that's
just
a,
terrific.
it's a huge
Wonderful.
improvement and very, very well appreciated.
But it took so long to get done.
Yeah.
It did it, all of a sudden,
It
it's
really
funny
did.
because I just
Years.
looked one day and they were there.
Believe me, no, that's not how it happened.
It's there, overnight, it's like magic.
Right, like magic.
Good job, Mary.
Well, that's all very good,
But it was in
and
the
and
plan,
obviously,
our
we're
plan
very
for a long
excited about
time.
it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just exciting.
Year
and
after
It
year.
is, it is, it is.
Have it, it's like getting a new house, you get to decorate it.
Yeah.
It is exciting,
Yeah, But then, that light fixture falls off and that.
I didn't want to have to replace that, the plumbing, what do you mean?
Right, right. Oh, goodness. So
Yeah.
yes, it's,
Well, yeah.
this is not enough to move with, but it's a start.
Yeah,
And that, everything has
you
to
have
have
to
a
start
start.
somewhere,
I
yeah.
think the
Yeah.
next meeting, I've talked to Tony
What?
Manning and all that, and he really is psyched about it. and-
He is, and he's.
Great,
he's a-
right, yeah, he has
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
talked
I-
a
that's
lot
what's-
about
touch
it.
with him,
Yeah.
And that's what starts
I
everything,
first
is somebody
started
that's so
with-
excited.
At the farmer's market, talking to him one day, and that's how it started. And I met with him and everything and discussed, because he had some ideas and stuff, so. And I didn't realize that these meetings were back open to the public. I was.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
him this the email to get hold, to have, so he could send that in.
Yeah,
Or I would have, obviously, I think he would have been here. So I
Yeah.
will reach out to
That'd be
him
good.
and tell him about the next meeting.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely thank him for his interest.
Yeah, he's very,
Yeah,
very
because
interested.
I think he
very
is just that
impressed.
person, just
Yeah.
to get everybody excited about
Well,
it.
he certainly has a big personality
Yeah.
that attract, attract followers, and that's
Well,
what you need.
And one other thing that I'll just add is kind of part of it, I already mentioned that Salisbury, a lot of that came from donations or fundraising of one form or another. I do not know how Ocean Pines funded theirs. I don't know how Ocean City funded theirs. Theirs has been there for
Yeah.
quite a
That-
long time.
Well, that was all through the.
And they may have even gotten like program open space grants or something at some point for that. Program open space used to be a lot more available than it is now.
Yeah,
Yeah, But I think you would find with most communities, particularly smaller communities, that have these types of amenities,
It's
it
fundraising.
came from private, private efforts. for the
When you
most part.
consider the manpower that it could potentially occupy to operate it. Going to see the Ocean City Skate Park and getting information about that was very eye-opening, and, it's just a whole different system. But
Yeah.
I am curious about how Salisbury's was, that was when we didn't get a
The
chance to see.
liability issue that concerns a lot of people is less of an issue than most people think. When we've spoken to our insurance broker, they've said it's really not, it's not a big issue. Because it's one of those activities that, there's a phrase, a term for it. Because you participate in it, you have accepted a lot of the risk.
Yeah.
Just
I
being
see what
there.
you're saying.
Right, you
So you
know
know-
what you're doing.
You
what
already
you're getting
know that
into.
it's an inherently dangerous.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
So as far as the risk of liability to the town, it's not that great of a factor, so we don't really even
That's good.
think about
Yeah,
that.
that's really good.
That is a
Now,
relief.
obviously,
There's some.
if it
Well,
came
have
down
insurance,
to,
but-
a rail that wasn't properly bolted down, that's a different matter.
And that's, or something is broken and we don't get right on
Right.
fixing it.
Yeah, exactly, it's no different than any
It's-
other
Yeah.
piece of equipment, right.
So,
Right.
well, good. Good. Well,
The only other thing, Berlin Youth Program, they didn't send me an update, I'm gonna have to talk to them about that. But, you know, with everything,
Did they have a replacement for Tiffany left, right?
I am not sure.
I
I'm
think
not sure
someone
what
said they
their,
thought she did.
yeah, what their situation is there, so.
Yeah,
but-
so,
Well,
because she
this-
did the sabers and the,
Right?
yeah.
she was had such energy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Oh, my
connection.
gosh.
Uh-huh.
Really good. Well, I hope that she's not
I'm
gone.
tired just.
It's just one of those,
Yeah.
it's a wonderful thing. I know that with COVID, it's just a struggle to do anything.
And it's really, I mean, there've really been a lot of really creative responses to things. And I don't know exactly, I know at the beginning, they were dealing with some food insecurity type issues. Kids are out of school, school was a place they were getting at least 2 meals a day. So I know that they kind of diverted their energies to some of that sort of thing.
Well, they were helping out with the food distribution that they
Yes,
had in the county.
yes.
Okay.
So I just need them to kind of give me an idea of what they're working on.
If
and
that's what they're, yeah.
envisioning. It's hard,
There's
you
still
know.
kids who are at home for various reasons, and they may still, you know,
Right.
we.
right. And it's
It's an important
impossible to
mission.
predict where we will be in 2 weeks, 2
I-
months,
I-
a year.
I-
It's impossible.
I know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
The next 2 weeks, hang on, baby.
So,
Well, just because of the virus, I don't think it's slowing down at all
No.
right now.
no,
it's
not
not
right
still.
now, it certainly
No.
isn't. As I said, our next meeting is scheduled for January 5th. And as we've been sitting here, I kind of thought, I think I will still plan a January meeting, but what I might do is move it a week, get it away from the holidays just a little bit.
That'd be great.
So I'll let you know about that. And what I would like to plan for that meeting is planning in as much as we can, what events we want to participate in, assuming they go forward. You know, do we want to keep doing the spring celebration? I think National Night Out is a, there's no question there, but the spring celebration, you know, I don't know, we'll talk about all that. And then we'll also drag out the program open space priority list and start really having some serious conversation about that.
That will be in January, we'll be talking about that?
Yes, just
Okay.
start talking about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
cool,
then,
baby.
and then definitely, if you speak to Tony, you know, if he wants to come, it's
Yeah.
not till
Oh,
January.
Yeah.
But maybe he'll have some more idea
Yeah.
by then of.
Have some time to put some
Yeah.
things and to make calls and approach
Yeah.
people, like, you know, contact the county and say, look, I'm open to all kinds of
Yeah,
ideas.
Yeah,
And
the
what
young
can I
man
do?
who we talked to that time, from what I understand, no longer lives in Berlin. Never mind.
Yeah.
You remember
I am
that,
not,
Patricia.
yes, I do, and my lips are sealed.
Yeah. But there was just no real, in my opinion, no real seriousness to that. It was definitely a do this kind of situation. And
Well,
that's not gonna
yeah.
work.
Yeah, some people, I think, really wanted to sink their teeth into it and get going.
Yes.
But if you don't have somebody who's really committed to get in there and do it and come up with a plan, you know, you can't just be wandering around, you know, what do we do now? You
Right.
keep asking and hope that somebody says yes, you know.
And you certainly can't approach it from the attitude of, I demand that the town do this.
Yeah, of course not.
Resources are what they are.
Yeah,
You
right.
can demand all you like.
Yeah, well,
And
there's
that's
a
what
lot
we
of,
were dealing
there's
with
a lot
few
of,
years ago.
I don't know.
Creativity.
For that. Well, thank you for taking the time.
No problem.
to explain all that, because I was wondering.
Yeah.
Every time I go
It's-
there, I think, why is it like this?
Yeah, and they
So-
have done some patching over the years, they have removed
Yeah.
sections to try to make
It's
it
the-
better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
So,
And it makes a difference.
No
We
group
remember- we
sadder
had
than
a-
this one.
yeah, I mean, I
Like
just didn't
that.
understand, so I just,
yeah, sadly,
We had a
sadly.
man that came to the meeting, it's been way over a year ago, I guess. He sat there real quiet, never said anything, finally, you know, time for, one of the few times we've had public comments, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he had never exercised, he had high blood pressure and all this. He started just out of the limb, walking it every day. and he had improved his health drastically. He came to thank us.
Yeah, well, I see the same people all the time using
Yeah.
it,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah.
all
And
the
it-
time.
That surface definitely for knees and things is better if you're
Oh,
walking on
absolutely.
blacktop. Yeah, I've heard a lot of comments on that from people.
I did slip though and fall on the black leaf, like
Yeah,
it
well,
gets,
yeah, Jeff said he was gonna try to get somebody there every morning early,
to
so.
get,
I'll double check with him
well,
about that.
it's like a slimy coat.
Yeah, once it's been.
Oh, yeah,
once
it's
it's
been-
Yeah,
been
it's
so-
different
yeah.
than the
Humidity's been
leaves,
so
it's
high
that
in the morning.
section.
You know,
Yeah.
that,
And
it does
unfortunately,
make
when
me
we've had
wonder
so much
though,
rain
there's
like
something
we've
heavy,
had.
you know, baking soda or
Yeah,
whatever.
something that you could put on there that would-
Sand might be helpful to throw on top of it.
Or
to-
something, yeah. I mean,
Anything.
that's.
I'll check with
I
him,
don't know,
see
that
what
might
he's
be
done.
something, if there's mold, you're talking about slime, a
It's
slime
like
is on it,
a
it's not just
slimy
leaves,
mold.
it's
And
slime.
it's dark looking,
It
like,
looks like mold.
maybe it is.
Well, I think it could just be too wet decomposing leaves, because they'll get
Oh,
like
yeah,
that, yeah.
So maybe a little
Some
power
slimy
wash.
to me.
Yeah,
But I love that trail.
It is, it's wonderful, and at some point, we're gonna have to talk about the age of those trees. You're gonna have to talk
It's
about
just so
completely
peaceful.
reforesting it. I mean, and that's not long. Honestly, we need to come up with a plan, probably this year, for how long those are, they're not gonna last that much longer.
You know, the one other thing, when I walk around there, I always think, I wish there was a row of evergreens along Route 113.
Highway.
Because.
I have a plan for
You
that.
do? That would be so awesome, because
There you
I
go.
she's got a plan for it.
She does. She does.
Yeah, I've got a plan for it, but not, you
But
know.
you need funding.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice. And manpower,
But
somebody
that
to dig
seems
the
doable.
holes, you know,
That
somebody to
seems
say
doable.
yes, you know.
I'll help you dig a hole.
Well, we actually do have access to free trees, but they're about this big
Yeah.
and this thin, you know, so.
Yeah.
Well,
In another 50 years, maybe there'll be
Honestly,
a barrier.
Yeah.
That
Gotta
whole
start
swale
sometime.
area on our park, I believe that the state needs to come back and give us one of those very nice swales like they have in all the other, you know, ours was like the first swale that came on 113.
Yeah.
And they gave us a ditch. They
Yeah.
just gave us a ditch. I
And they
think that
never
we
came back.
need to convince them, when they give us that crosswalk up by the food line, they should just go ahead and do this, because
Yeah.
there's money for that. There's plenty of money for that. You see every piece of highway, they put that beautiful, God, they're beautiful, aren't they?
Yes, I
Beautiful
agree.
trees. I'm sorry, I'll get off that
No,
soapbox.
but I
But
love
I think
you're
that
on
the state should
soapbox.
pay for it. See, that's the bone that I want to pick. I
Yeah,
want
but
the state to pay for
it's a
it.
state, the problem is in the state highways
Yeah.
area.
Yeah, it is the state highways
Is it?
area.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot that we can do
Right.
except complain.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
get your letter writing out.
Yeah, I'm glad that you already were thinking about all that, because every time I come around there, I think, oh, it's so beautiful and peaceful, but then there's that highway, and you're breathing in the.
Well, and you know, and that's something that I would say to people everywhere.
Yeah.
Just because you see a problem, don't think it's not being thought about by
Yes.
anybody else.
Yes, that's why it's good that
But
this,
there's no money, or we don't have the
Yeah.
property, or we don't have the rights, or whatever.
there's a reason.
Money is often the biggest
Yeah,
thing.
I would help you plant
Yeah.
trees out there if you want.
Eastern hemlocks, and then we keep them short and that way, because the eastern hemlock has the finest leaf, which has the greatest sound deadening properties, so it absorbs the sound.
Oh my gosh. Definitely thought of this. I'll have to do this.
Or we could just build one of those walls like they have around Baltimore.
Yeah. Now there's an idea.
Just so it's not a Leland cypress.
Amen. No Leland
No
cypress
Leland
for
cypress.
us. No, those, they can grape in the most unusual
Oh my
ways.
gosh, they're crazy.
I was up in, well, that's a story. Never
Yeah.
mind. I'm
All right.
going to end this
Can we
meeting.
get, let's go ahead and get a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
I'll call that a Patricia. Okay, I thank you all very much, and here I thought we would have nothing to talk about at this meeting.
Oh, honey, this crowd.
Oh, I know, right? All right, thank you all.
Thank you